Okay, you're recording.
Alright, so you can start with your name and your credentials.
Jay Ruggiero, and I'm at LCSW.
Okay. What is a typical day for you?
Typical day is I am one of the heads of mental health in the Bridgeport Public Schools, and in addition to owning Reflections Therapy. So, depending on the day, I will be at both locations. Um, my day typically begins about 6 a.m. I'm out the door at 6 a.m. and I'm working by 6:30. Um, if I'm in Bridgeport, I'm working on whatever crises have occurred the previous night, kind of sorting through emails, doing things like that. Um, I'm also a compliance officer, so I have to manage all the IEPs for special education students who are diagnosed with emotionally disturbed behaviors. So we work on that. I work on sorting classroom placement for children who don't fit in the general education classroom, do PPTs for the parents. I work with community agencies in Bridgeport to try to link services for students and their parents. Um, Here in Monroe, I a lot of times I'll do sessions before I go into Bridgeport and then kind of fly back and forth. Um, I have a caseload of probably about 45 or 50 clients. So I am very busy. I do sessions of 45 minutes per session. Um, and oftentimes I'll work 7 days a week. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, it sure does.
Okay.
Um, what do you enjoy and not enjoy about what you do?
I love doing private practice work. Um, when I believe that I've evolved during my years of doing this. I started out um, when I was at Columbia. I did internships with a lot of. Well, I interned at Bellevue in the city, and then I did internships at Child and Family Guidance in Bridgeport. So I worked with a lot of youth. I wanted to go into death and dying. Um, I was offered some positions in Boston but didn't want to relocate my family. I then moved from that. I worked in the overnights at Silver Hill, the chronic pain and addiction. Um, and then I came back to do outpatient mental health therapy at Child Guidance as while I got my license. I have moved away from working with kids more, and I prefer working with more older people as I'm getting older. Um, I work really long days, but it never feels long. I absolutely just love it. So I really genuinely have that sense of enjoyment. Um, I don't like going into Bridgeport and doing that job, but it's more the politics involved with it. Superintendent, the situations that I've had. That I love the people. Um, I just I have a hard time with the the state and what they're doing and different things like that.
So you went in depth a little bit about what you do specifically. How would you say the things you practice either in private or in Bridgeport incorporates with your values?
Well, they do and they don't. Um, I'm definitely you're trained as a clinician to be like private and not talk, and I'm not that person. Like your professor is going to see this and probably say that that's not professional. Um, I'm way more open about things, and I freely admit that. Um, when I was at Columbia and they asked, what do you want to do? I said, I just know that I don't want to wear a shirt and tie like you're wearing. So I am going to be me, and I'll be transparent with different things. But at the same time, I'm very good at feeling like what the client is presenting with, I don't know what it's like for them, and I never will. and I don't even pretend to try. Um, my job is to try to help the client see what I see and to like reflect it back at them. It's them who has to do the work. I'm just along for the ride. Um, Oftentimes the maintenance that people have to do on themselves, like once we overcome a problem, and that's what I don't like about like the nonprofit organizations is they're almost like human factories. Somebody goes in, they come in with a problem, you write a treatment plan, you solve the problem, you say, okay, come back if you need me. And well, a lot of times people need the maintenance to not revert back. So, you know, but in terms of my values are my own. They're not whoever else comes in here. So, I've had some people who have said certain things, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, but just doesn't mean that I'm gonna judge it at all.
How do you feel that your position or your field has changed over time, and what do you kind of foresee it changing into?
I think that the biggest change in the field that I've experienced is in the LGBTQ community. Um, it's just become way more pronounced, and even with the binary and non-binary, and a lot of people have real feelings about that stuff, whereas I frankly just couldn't care less. Um, but a lot of people are uncomfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people who come in and they'll talk about how uncomfortable they are with it, and then there's other people who will come in and say like, I don't know if you know what this is like, and I'm like, no, I don't know what it's like. But again, but that has been the thing I think that people need the most amount of professional development with, because that's come the farthest in my opinion over the last 15 years.
Mm.
And that's both in private practice and in the schools. I mean, like a lot of people don't know this, but I think it was 2013, maybe it was 2019, I don't know, but Governor Malloy signed in a law that a child is allowed to change their gender in the school, and you're not allowed to notify the parent. So a kindergartner could come in, and I've had teachers that have fought back at me and said this is a terrible thing. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's a terrible thing, it's the law. So that is always evolving, and that makes people uncomfortable, and I think that's where a lot of professional development needs to be done for a lot of people.
Yeah, very serious issues. So in the position that you're in now, do you feel that there is any room for you to continue to grow or advance in what you're doing, or you've kind of reached?
No, I think I know it all already.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that the profession is always evolving because we as people are always changing. I mean, just think back the last 5 years of from COVID on, and then everything that happened in politics, and even everything that's happening right now in like Israel and Palestine. And I believe that it's my job to know as much as I can about Israel and Palestine while also watching the new season of Stranger Things when it comes out, because what is important to the client is how I'm going to build a rapport with them. So I don't know if that's really answering your question, but like, yeah, I believe that we have, like, there is so much still to learn, and every day we need to really work to try to have ourselves learn more, because you just don't know what somebody's going to bring in tomorrow, what their problem, what their anxiety might be over, or I feel like diagnosing, I'm pretty competent in that, and even working on adaptive skills for mental health, and what works and what doesn't. But I tell everybody who comes into my office that the same thing doesn't work for everybody. Journaling is a lazy thing to tell people to do, because journaling doesn't work for everybody. For some, it's go out and play basketball for a little bit of time, and it's finding what can ground out your whatever you're struggling with, and kind of meeting the client where they're at.
What's something that you wish you knew before entering into this career?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I don't know that I would have done it any way different than what I did. I feel like the more that you enter in with, the harder it is to break. Like, the harder it is the habits to break. Because you really can't have your own, like, you should be evolving as a clinician every day. And there's a new problem in my line of work between both jobs. There's a new problem every day. So, like, if I knew things getting into it, then I don't know that I'd be the person that I am right now. So it's really hard to answer because, I remember one of my supervisors, one thing that she had to, like, really beat over my head was, when I was going to school, I was working as a preschool teacher. And so I had to do lesson planning and all of this stuff. And she's like, "You're not a teacher anymore. Like, you have to change that." And it's not about teaching, it's about the therapeutic journey. So to a degree, I almost feel like the more you bring in, the more you have to, it's hard to change old habits.
What's something that you would like my classmates or other students going into this field to know?
The biggest thing that I tell everybody is it is a complete, I'll just say it's complete bullshit that your professors are all going to teach you that you can't make money in this profession. Everybody said, and again, I'm a social worker. Everybody said, you don't go into social work to make money. You don't go into social work to make money. I make a very comfortable living for myself. But I also work hard and I work a lot. So the reason why I think that's important is not because of the money, but because it's like, it shouldn't drive you away from the profession. Yes, it's a journey. You're not going to get to do clinical work the day that you start, the day that you graduate. Even after you graduate with your master's, you're still not going to get to be a clinician right away. But if you're really, married to it and you really enjoy it, like, you can make a good career out of it as well. And I think that, at least for me, I heard countless times throughout all of my schools, you don't go into social work to make money. Well, I know a lot of people who make quite a handsome living, so.
I think that's it.
All right.
Cool.
That ends my TED Talk.